to learn to live the off-grid lifestyle and to be inspired to live your dreams, click subscribe so you don't miss anything. Click the bell notification. It's all free. So I'm down here at the solar panels today just for a minute. The debate is finally over. If you even knew there was a debate. I used to lift and lower the solar panels depending on the season. Well, then I watched a video from this really smart guy when it comes to DC electric, and there's a lot of people who watch my videos who watch him too. And I'm not going to say his name simply because he is really smart. If he makes a mistake every now and then, so be it. He's just that smart. I'm not going to criticize him. But I watched one of his videos and he says it doesn't really matter if you lower and raise your solar panels to match the sun. So as you know, the sun will go further down in the south in the wintertime and then come back up towards the north in the summertime. So I had them drop down, I don't know, 4 inches or so. I mean, they were pretty flat to the ground. And the reason I did that was because I noticed they stay cooler the closer to the ground they are. That's a long debate also that I've had with my subscribers. But when I lifted them off the ground, I gained about 10 degrees on the panels. When I put them back on the ground kind of gives them a little bit of cooling effect, and I lose 10 degrees to them. And that's important because solar panels lose energy when they get hot. There's actually a mathematical formula for that, but I'm not going to get into that right now. This morning I came down here and I noticed that one of the panels was lower than the others, and it was getting shaded by the other solar panel. So let's just say it was this solar panel here. It was lower, so this panel last night was shading this panel. So I came down this morning, I lifted it up, and I gained about 1 amp. So I raised one at a time, and I was gaining roughly 1 amp per panel. Give or take. Some panels produce more electric than others. Some of them are getting weaker than others. They happen over time. They start to crack and wear and different things, but that's all beside the point. Anyway, I raised them all up and I got 8 amps out of it. 8 extra amps just by lifting them up, maybe 4 inches a piece. I don't even know if it's 4 inches. I put a brick underneath it and a little log, and I was doing some experimenting is all I was doing. So 8 amps, that's pretty significant. You figure one panel is 4 amps. So basically what I just did this morning was gained 2 panels. I moved that one over there on the end last night because the camper was shading this one right here. I had it here, I moved it up over there. That got it out of the shade. So that's another nice thing about having them on the ground, is I can move them as I need it individually. Whereas if they were all connected, they'd be stationary. We've talked about putting it on top of the camper here, and that's probably the best place, but the camper is just not big enough to hold them. And they get pretty hot in the summertime. They get really hot in the summertime. So that's just one of those things that we keep going back and forth on. Maybe we'll put them up there one of these days and I'll build a frame. But once they're there, they're stuck there. And I'd have to build something that I can now raise them and lower them. I just thought about it. My very first set of solar panels that I bought are probably 20 years old now. We were talking about what are we going to do with these solar panels when it's time to get rid of them. And I said, well, we can make compost bins out of them. But we got, 20 years well, I guess 18 years left before we have to do that. And I was thinking about my very first solar panels. I bought them about 20 years ago, just almost 20 years ago. So they'd be retiring soon if I still had them. But I sure do enjoy the off-grid lifestyle, and got all this firewood. And the reason I bring up the firewood is it's an important part of the subject today. So before I get into it, there's a video at the end of this video. It'll be right on the screen, I think right here. If you click that, it'll take you to another video where I talk about wood stoves. I really would like for you to watch that so you can learn how to use wood stoves. I really want to cover this subject. YouTube seems to think that you guys like the wood stove videos, but I want to cover this subject very thoroughly because I would like for everybody to try to start thinking about alternative types of heat. And wood stoves is probably the most reliable that I can think of. So if you'll click that, it helps the algorithm know that you like this video. It'll promote this video even more, getting it out to more people, trying to get the word out about what I want to talk about today. I got 15 years of firewood here, and I know the troll channels just love the idea that I'm a wood hoarder. Oh my goodness, I'm a wood hoarder, firewood hoarder. It's amazing what they'll complain about. You can't be an e-beggar, don't be an e-beggar. But then when you actually work and try to do something, oh, don't work, that's too much work, you can't do that much work. Same channels. And this is my retirement plan. I've said this many times that, and yes, you can preserve firewood. This will last 15 years. You can go to the Lowe's, and you can get termite control stuff. Just spread it around. They keep the termites off of it. And spray ant spray on it because the ants like to eat the wood. So, you know, when I get, I don't know, 65, 70 years old, I can stop cutting wood. I'll use 1 cord of wood. I'll replace that 1 cord. That's 3 trees or 3 truckloads of firewood every year. So I'll just replace what I use. And then when I'm ready to retire, I don't have to cut any more firewood. I know a lot of people say, hey, you're not gonna be out of shape by then, but I just want to retire. I just want to be able to relax. Raise chickens and some pigs and relax. Don't have to worry about firewood. And I feel very secure with this. It's just, well, I mean, there's just a ton of reasons. I've talked about firewood all the time. There's a ton of reasons why I think firewood's so important. I've asked poll questions. Do you think that firewood is more valuable than cash or gold or bitcoins or, you know, whatever? And there are a lot of people who agree that there is tremendous value in this. When you understand inflation and how the dollar is terrible, the dollar can inflate. The government can print more money and it's worth less than it was, but that's value. This piece of wood here will burn the same amount of time 10 years from now as it does right now. There's value in it, it doesn't change. So I can sell this, I can trade it if something went bad. But for me, there's just security in knowing that I won't go cold during the wintertime. There's security knowing that I'll always have electric. I can replace the solar panels probably better than I can rely on an electric company. My panels are $80 a piece. That's not a lot of money. $800 and I have electric for 20 years. Pretty solid, pretty good stuff. It's a security blanket. It really is. There is a comfort to this that just really makes me feel secure and safe. I've tried to explain the power companies and food shortages and all this, and when I give a poll and I say, do you think there's shortages? And people will say, yes, absolutely, there's shortages. We can see it. There's barges out in the ocean that aren't getting unloaded. Shelves are empty. But when I say there's a heating shortage this winter, or I ask a question in the polls, is there a heating shortage? People will say no. And it's just amazing to me because there's so much news on the heating shortage crisis. There is a serious heating shortage crisis. Utility company after utility company after utility company keeps saying there's a shortage. I mean, let's think about it. We've shut down pipelines in this country and gas prices are going up and there's oil shortages and OPEC is shorting us, and it's just on and on. There's all kinds of shortages. But when you say, is there a heating shortage? No. I find it phenomenal. Last year, Texas, freezing cold temperatures, and there was a shortage in electric. People froze. I don't understand how we don't see the shortages. I've reported several times that multiple companies have come out and said, expect shutdowns this winter. If there are prolonged cold spells, worse than last year, expect shortages. We're going to shut down. I think, wow, last winter was really mild to me. I mean, of course, February got cold, but February always gets cold. Is that an extended thing? Is that unusual? It wasn't. It's not unusual to me. February is always cold. So I didn't see last year as being extreme, but the power company said that's extreme, and if you see any of that next year, we're in trouble. So what they really meant to say is, if we have a normal winter this year, there's going to be shortages. That's just the way I heard it. Now, I recognize Texas was a little chilly, but other areas of the country had problems also. It just wasn't as well documented. I've been reading about St. Louis. There's this company called Spire Natural Gas. It's in St. Louis. They have a pipeline that runs from Illinois, 65 miles from Illinois to St. Louis. Somehow or another, their pipeline is illegal. So they were shut down by one of the federal courts. Well, it went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court upheld the decision and said, no, it's illegal. There wasn't enough studies done to make sure that the public needed the pipeline and that it didn't have a serious environmental impact. So since all these studies weren't conducted, you have to shut down this pipeline December 13th. Now, there was a thing in it that said that is if there's emergency services. It was confusing. I don't understand what the point of the shutdown is. Spire came out today, said, okay, we only have a few weeks left and we have to shut down our pipeline to St. Louis. St. Louis is a major metropolitan city. It's so serious that Anheuser-Busch, if you don't know this, is like St. Louis is the city for Anheuser-Busch. I recognize that other states have Anheuser-Busch now, but St. Louis was the place where Anheuser-Busch started. Anheuser-Busch actually made a statement today, or yesterday, or whenever the article was written, that there is going to be a shortage on alcohol also if Spire cannot produce or give out natural gas. One of the local news stations, I used to live near St. Louis, just 30 miles south of St. Louis, and one of the news stations that I watched back then was interviewing some just regular citizens in Lake St. Louis, which isn't really in St. Louis, it's like a suburb of St. Louis. And they were talking to some of them, and they said, yeah, we're in serious trouble. I don't know what we're going to do. We're surprised that the government and the company couldn't come out and give a solution to it. Why are you surprised? Really? Why are you surprised? This happens all the time. We just ignore it. We don't see it. We don't see it slapping us in the face. Twice in my lifetime, the power company has shut down in the middle of winter. We put the kerosene heater in the living room. And so for a week, we slept on the floor around this kerosene heater. It was miserable, uncomfortable. And so I don't want to live like that anymore. I just always want to live where I don't have to rely on people to supply me things that I absolutely have to have. That's essential to my well-being. Food, electric, heat. I'm not going to rely on anybody for that stuff. That's my responsibility, and I'm taking it on. And so don't be surprised when St. Louis shuts down its power supply. Don't be surprised if your area shuts down the power supply. People are so reliant on the electric company, and they have so much faith in the electric company that they just believe that there's no way they can run out of electric. There's a video at the end of this video. It'll be right on the screen, I think right here. If you click that, it'll take you to another video where I talk about wood stoves. It'll promote this video even more, getting it out to more people, trying to get the word out. I hope I can inspire you to think about your future so you can live your dream. Thanks for watching.